Captain Emily Turner's boots hit the dusty tarmac before dawn, the early light reflecting off the camouflage of the military transport plane that had brought her halfway across the country. She adjusted her uniform, checked her gear, and allowed herself a brief moment to breathe. This was the first day at her new assignment, a battalion renowned for its discipline, toughness, and tradition, a place where officers were tested as much by their peers as by any mission. The air buzzed with a mixture of anticipation and casual chatter as Marines moved through the compound, readying themselves for the morning briefing. Emily's presence did not go unnoticed. Heads turned. Conversations paused. Some whispered with curiosity, others with skepticism. She was young, in her early 30s, with sharp eyes that seemed to study everything around her. Her hair was neatly tied back, her posture impeccable. There was no mistaking her for a newcomer. But this battalion had seen its share of bright-eyed officers. What mattered was whether she could lead. Colonel James McAllister, a figure as imposing as he was respected, waited in the briefing room. Known affectionately as Grizzly among his Marines, he was a man who had earned his reputation over decades of service. Lines etched his face, evidence of countless missions and countless decisions that had cost him sleep and demanded courage. His voice carried authority, and it carried humor, the kind of humor that could either ease tension or sting. Today, he had a twinkle in his eye, and Emily immediately sensed he was about to make an impression. As the Marines filed in, Emily scanned the room. She noticed the way some of the senior enlisted men shifted in their boots when she entered. A mix of curiosity and guarded skepticism. Some of the newer Marines stared openly, while the veterans watched quietly, analyzing her every movement. Emily understood the unspoken test. Every Marine, from the newest recruit to the seasoned sergeant, would be looking for a sign of weakness, and she had none to give. Colonel McAllister cleared his throat. "Morning, Battalion. Before we get into the routine, let's do something a little different today." His eyes swept the room, landing on Emily. We're handing out call signs. They're important. A name can be light-hearted, yes, but it also carries weight in the field. You might laugh, you might groan, but it sticks with you. The Marines murmured in anticipation. Some exchanged amused glances. Emily remained calm, her arms crossed lightly, waiting for the inevitable. "Turner," the colonel continued, pausing for dramatic effect, "your call sign will be Iron Hawk." Laughter erupted immediately. Some Marines snorted into their sleeves. Others shook their heads, trying to hide smiles. Emily allowed a small, polite smile, though her mind registered the judgment in the room. Iron Hawk, a joke. A nickname that sounded like it belonged to a comic book hero, not a battle-hardened officer. "Don't worry," McAllister added, his voice teasing. "I'm sure you'll live up to it, or at least try." The chuckles spread across the room. Some Marines clapped lightly, others whispered to one another. Emily could feel the weight of every eye on her, testing her response, gauging her reaction. She did not flinch. She let the words hang in the air, knowing that respect had to be earned, and that this was only the first step. The laughter died down as the colonel continued with the briefing, but Emily noticed subtle shifts in the room. Some Marines, still skeptical, began to observe her more closely. What would Iron Hawk do when put to the test? Would she fold under scrutiny, or would she rise above it? After the briefing, Emily was escorted to her office, a small room with peeling paint and the faint smell of disinfectant and old leather. It wasn't grand, but it was functional. She unpacked her belongings, neatly arranging files and maps on the desk. Every movement was deliberate, signaling competence even in small gestures. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. It was Sergeant Marcus Lee, a veteran Marine assigned as her aide. He was tall, muscular, and had the kind of calm confidence that came only from years of experience. "Captain Turner," he said, saluting briskly. "Welcome to the unit. Don't let the call sign fool you. They'll test you. And I mean everyone. The men, the officers, even the colonel." Emily nodded. "I understand. I didn't come here to be liked. I came here to lead." Lee studied her for a moment and offered a small, approving nod. "Then you'll do fine. Just remember, actions speak louder than words. They'll see Iron Hawk for what she really is soon enough." Over the next few hours, Emily toured the base, observing the routines and operations of her new battalion. She saw Marines cleaning weapons with meticulous care, teams coordinating, logistics with efficiency, and soldiers in training drills, honing skills that could mean the difference between life and death. The environment was rigorous, demanding, and disciplined, and Emily thrived in it. By midday, it was time for the first training exercise. Colonel McAllister stood by, observing as Emily took charge. She gave commands confidently, issued orders with clarity, and navigated the exercises with a mix of precision and adaptability. Some Marines still whispered "Iron Hawk" under their breath, a mix of amusement and curiosity. Emily ignored the teasing, focusing on execution. Every decision she made was deliberate, and every move showcased competence. Colonel McAllister's eyes narrowed slightly, a rare hint of intrigue crossing his face. This young captain, the one they had joked about, was holding her own. Perhaps more than that, perhaps she was the real deal. As the sun began to set over the base, Emily stood at the edge of the training field, watching her Marines pack up their equipment. The nickname Iron Hawk lingered in the air, no longer purely a joke, but a label that hinted at potential. She knew the journey ahead would test her limits, her courage, and her leadership. But she also knew that one day, the name would carry the respect it deserved. For now, she allowed herself a quiet smile. The battalion had its first impression. An Iron Hawk had just landed. The morning fog hung low over the training grounds as Captain Emily Turner stepped out of the barracks, her boots crunching on the frost-hardened dirt. Today, she was in command of her first battalion exercise, a rigorous field operation designed to simulate real combat conditions. Every Marine, from the newest recruit to the battle-tested sergeants, would be under her direction. This was more than just a test of strategy. It was a test of her leadership, her authority, and her ability to inspire respect. As Emily approached the assembly point, she noticed the subtle exchanges among the Marines. A few shot glances her way, some curious, others skeptical. The call sign, Iron Hawk, had already made its rounds through the ranks, whispered with a mix of amusement and doubt. Some veterans nudged one another, smirking. She felt their eyes on her, but let nothing show. Confidence, she reminded herself, was as much about composure as it was about competence. Colonel McAllister stood off to the side, observing, his arms crossed. His face was unreadable, though the slight arch of his eyebrow betrayed a flicker of curiosity. He had made the joke about her call sign during the briefing, and now he watched to see if Iron Hawk could survive the scrutiny of the men she would lead. "All right, Marines," Emily called, her voice firm but calm, cutting through the murmurs. "We'll be conducting a simulated reconnaissance mission. Terrain is rough. Visibility is limited. Communication must remain constant. We have objectives to complete, and safety is non-negotiable. Follow my commands precisely." A ripple of whispers spread through the group. "She sounds confident," muttered one of the junior Marines. "Yeah, but that call sign," another replied, shaking his head. Emily ignored the comments. She had anticipated skepticism, and she knew it would fade only when her actions spoke louder than her words. She divided the battalion into squads, assigning each a tactical role. Maps were reviewed, equipment checked, radios tested. Every detail mattered. The operation began at first light, the mist curling around the trees as the Marines moved into position. Emily led the way, navigating uneven terrain with practiced precision. She pointed out landmarks, adjusted squad positions, and monitored progress with keen observation. Even small decisions mattered: how to position a sentry, how to manage fatigue, and how to maintain morale. The first obstacle came sooner than expected. A small unit found itself separated from the main group by a sudden rise in terrain. Panic flickered in a few eyes. "Captain Turner, they're off course," called Sergeant Lee, reporting from his position. Emily's response was immediate and deliberate. "Maintain your position. Squad Delta, pivot to grid 7 to 4. Keep visual on the high ridge. Squad Bravo, support from the flank. Repeat your positions and confirm when secured." Her commands were precise, authoritative, and calm. For the first time, a few Marines glanced at one another, noticing the ease with which she managed a potentially chaotic situation. The mist that had initially concealed her movements now seemed to enhance her command. She was everywhere at once, watching, directing, anticipating. The next challenge emerged as simulated enemy forces, represented by trainers, attempted to ambush her battalion. Marines froze for a split second, unsure of how to respond. Emily called out positions, signaling flanking maneuvers with rapid hand gestures. She moved forward to guide the teams, showing no hesitation even as the simulated gunfire cracked around them. "Keep low. Move in pairs. Communicate clearly," she barked, her voice cutting through the tension. Every Marine followed her lead, some surprised at how seamlessly she directed the action. The squads regrouped, executed coordinated attacks, and neutralized the simulated threats. By the end of the maneuver, Emily's leadership had transformed initial confusion into synchronized efficiency. Colonel McAllister, still observing, allowed a rare smile to touch his lips. The joke call sign, once a symbol of jest, was beginning to shift in meaning. Iron Hawk was proving herself, not just in strategy, but in courage, presence, and quick thinking. As the exercise continued, fatigue set in. The mist burned off to reveal the harsh sun, and the ground was uneven, muddy, and cold beneath their boots. Some Marines struggled to keep pace, sweat mixing with grime. Emily moved among them, offering brief words of encouragement, adjusting positions, and subtly reinforcing her authority. Her attention to detail did not go unnoticed. Veterans who had once doubted her ability began to nod quietly, acknowledging her competence without a word. A tense moment arose when one squad misinterpreted her orders and nearly crossed into simulated enemy territory. Emily's sharp voice cut through. "Squad Charlie, stop, pivot left and hold that ridge." "Now," the squad responded instantly, preventing what could have been a catastrophic error in the exercise. Relief and newfound respect flickered in their eyes. For the first time, the men saw Iron Hawk as a leader who commanded both authority and trust. By midday, the battalion had completed multiple phases of the exercise: navigation, reconnaissance, and engagement simulations. Emily gathered the teams for a brief rest, surveying the field. Marines slumped against trees, panting and wiping mud from their faces, yet there was a subtle buzz in the air. The call sign Iron Hawk was no longer whispered mockingly. It carried a note of intrigue, curiosity, and cautious respect. Sergeant Lee approached, his expression a mix of pride and mild amusement. "Captain, I have to admit, you handled that better than most of the guys we've had in command. I can see why they're talking." Emily smiled faintly, brushing sweat from her brow. "It's not about being liked. It's about getting the job done. And today, we got the job done." By late afternoon, the exercise concluded. The battalion assembled in formation, tired but disciplined. Colonel McAllister stepped forward, clearing his throat. "Captain Turner led the battalion today," he announced. "Some of you may have had doubts. Some may still. But one thing is clear. Ironhawk can command, can strategize, and can lead. Remember that." The silence that followed was brief but significant. The Marines exchanged glances, some shaking their heads in disbelief, others nodding with newfound respect. Emily stood tall, her posture unchanged, but inside, a quiet satisfaction settled. Today was only the beginning, but she had made her mark. Ironhawk was no longer a joke. It was a name that demanded attention. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Emily walked the perimeter of the training field, watching her Marines pack up and prepare to return to base. The mist that had greeted her in the morning had disappeared, leaving clarity in its place, not just in the air, but in the minds of the battalion. They had witnessed competence, courage, and calm under pressure. They had witnessed leadership. Emily paused for a moment, taking in the scene. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, more exercises, and perhaps even skepticism again. But today, Ironhawk had earned her first measure of respect. And for a Marine, that was everything. The call sign still hung in the air, but it was no longer a joke. It had begun its transformation into legend. Nightfall descended over the battalion's training grounds, draping the landscape in shadows that made even familiar terrain seem foreign. Captain Emily Turner stood at the edge of a small clearing, the faint glow of moonlight glinting off her gear. The mist clung to the ground, swirling around the boots of Marines as they checked their weapons and adjusted their equipment. Tonight, she would lead her first night reconnaissance exercise, a test, not only of skill and strategy, but of nerve and leadership under pressure. The assignment had been designed to challenge the battalion in every conceivable way. Visibility was near zero. Communication relied on careful hand signals and subtle whispers, and the terrain was intentionally unpredictable. Every Marine depended on Emily's guidance. Her call sign, Ironhawk, whispered through the ranks with a mix of humor and skepticism. But tonight, those whispers were quieter, replaced by attentive focus. Emily surveyed her unit, noting subtle shifts in posture and behavior. Some Marines still questioned her, casting sideways glances, but most were beginning to pay attention. Her calm, measured tone inspired confidence, and her deliberate movements conveyed control. "Squads, move out," she instructed, her voice steady. "Maintain formation. Eyes and ears open. Report every anomaly." The teams moved silently, navigating narrow paths and low ridges. Emily led the way, scanning constantly, her instincts sharp, her mind calculating multiple scenarios simultaneously. Each decision was critical. A single misstep could endanger her squad, or worse, compromise the exercise entirely. She moved like a shadow through the forest, alert and confident, earning subtle nods of recognition from a few Marines who had been skeptical earlier. The first challenge emerged as a simulated obstacle course, with hidden sensors triggering alarms if stepped on incorrectly. One of the newer Marines, hesitant and visibly nervous, froze mid-step. Emily was immediately at his side, crouching low. "Trust your training. Follow my lead. Step to the left. Eyes up. Breathe," she instructed calmly. Her presence alone seemed to steady him. He followed her movements, and together they navigated the trap without incident. The rest of the battalion observed silently, impressed by her ability to manage tense situations with clarity and composure. The nickname Iron Hawk seemed almost prophetic now, conjuring images of sharp vision and calculated precision. Even the veterans, who had once smirked at her arrival, began to murmur to one another, acknowledging her skill. Hours into the night, the real test arrived. Emily's unit encountered a simulated enemy ambush. The sudden crack of blank rounds echoed through the trees, and the Marines instinctively ducked for cover. Some hesitated, unsure of how to respond. Emily's voice rose above the noise. firm and commanding. Form up. Squad Alpha, flank left. Squad Bravo, hold the ridge. Cover the rear. Her leadership was immediate and decisive. She moved among her squads, signaling with precise hand gestures, guiding movements and adjusting tactics in real time. The Marines followed her, executing maneuvers with surprising coordination despite the darkness and tension. Every order she gave was calculated, reinforcing both safety and strategic advantage. Sergeant Marcus Lee, usually reserved and critical, caught Emily's eye. There was a hint of approval in his expression. He knew she was doing more than leading. She was inspiring trust, turning nervous hesitation into confidence. The battalion was no longer simply following commands. They were following Iron Hawk, and they knew she would guide them safely through the trial. The ambush simulation intensified. Smoke grenades created dense clouds, obscuring vision and heightening tension. Some Marines stumbled, but Emily remained a steady presence, repositioning squads, issuing clear instructions, and correcting errors without raising her voice unnecessarily. Each decision reinforced her authority. Each movement proved her competence. By the time the exercise reached its final phase, the battalion had navigated treacherous terrain, neutralized simulated threats, and completed all reconnaissance objectives with precision. Emily gathered the Marines at the extraction point, her face illuminated by a lantern's glow. Sweat streaked her brow, dirt smeared her uniform, but her posture was impeccable, her gaze unwavering. Colonel McAllister appeared behind her, having observed from a distance. His usually impassive face revealed a hint of admiration. The same man who had joked about Iron Hawk in the morning now saw a leader who had earned the respect of the very Marines who had doubted her. He stepped forward, addressing the battalion. Captain Turner led this exercise tonight. Some of you may have questioned her abilities when she arrived. Some of you may have even joked about her call sign. But tonight, you witnessed leadership, courage, and precision. Iron Hawk isn't just a nickname, it's a standard. The Marines stood in silence, absorbing his words. Even the ones who had doubted Emily now nodded subtly, some exchanging impressed glances. The atmosphere had shifted. Iron Hawk was no longer a source of amusement. She had proven herself in the crucible of challenge, and the battalion's perception of her had begun to change irrevocably. After the briefing, Emily walked among her Marines, checking their equipment and exchanging quiet words of encouragement. She noticed the subtle respect in their eyes, the careful attention to her guidance, and the absence of previous skepticism. This was not complete acceptance, but it was a beginning. Sergeant Lay approached once more, offering a rare smile. "Captain, you handled that flawlessly." The men saw it, and they respected. Even the ones who were joking before. Emily allowed herself a brief smile, though it was tempered with thoughtfulness. Respect is earned, not given. Tonight was a start. Tomorrow will bring more challenges. As the battalion returned to base, the forest behind them seemed quieter, almost reverent. The night's exercise had tested nerves, skill, and leadership, and Emily had emerged not just unscathed, but strengthened. She had proven that Iron Hawk was more than a call sign. It was a symbol of focus, courage, and tactical acumen. Colonel McAllister watched her from the edge of the training area, silently acknowledging the transformation that had begun. The young captain, once the subject of laughter, was now a figure who commanded attention, if not yet complete reverence. He knew the journey ahead would be long and filled with further tests, but tonight had marked a turning point. The mist lifted as dawn approached, revealing a battalion changed. The Marines walked taller, quieter, and more attentive. Whispers of Iron Hawk carried a different tone, now a mixture of intrigue and emerging respect. Emily herself felt a quiet satisfaction. Leadership was not about proving oneself to everyone at once. It was about consistently making the right decisions, staying calm under pressure, and earning trust through action. This night had been a proving ground, and Emily had proven her worth. The path ahead remained uncertain, but Ironhawk had begun to soar, her presence casting a shadow over the battalion that would not soon be forgotten. And somewhere, in the stillness of the night, Colonel McAllister allowed himself a rare, approving smile. The joke call sign had begun its transformation into legend. The early morning sun cast long shadows over the training grounds as Captain Emily Turner stood surveying her battalion. The air was thick with anticipation. Today's exercise was not a simulation. It was a live-fire drill, designed to test the Marines' ability to operate under extreme pressure. Weapons gleamed in the sunlight, radios crackled faintly, and the scent of gunpowder lingered in the air. Every Marine knew the stakes were high, and tension hung heavily in the compound. Emily moved among her squads, checking positions and equipment. Sergeant Marcus Lee approached her, his expression serious. "Captain, this exercise is risky. A single misstep could lead to injury. The men will be watching you closely," he said. "I know," Emily replied calmly. "They're watching, yes. But more importantly, they're learning. Every decision I make must be precise. Timing, communication, situational awareness, it all matters. One mistake, and this could turn catastrophic. Let's make sure it doesn't." The Marines were divided into teams for a complex tactical scenario, neutralizing simulated enemy positions, navigating difficult terrain, and coordinating fire without risking friendly casualties. Emily briefed each squad meticulously, her voice firm but calm. "Stay alert. Trust your training. Watch each other. Execute orders exactly. And remember, safety comes first, always." The battalion moved into position, rifles at the ready, eyes scanning the terrain. Emily led from the front, her movements precise, her gaze sharp. Every command was calculated, every gesture deliberate. For the first few minutes, the exercise proceeded smoothly, the squads maneuvering as planned, maintaining discipline and communication. The Marines followed her orders closely, and the tension that had plagued her earlier exercises began to ease, just slightly. Then, it happened. A sudden misfire erupted from a nearby squad. The crack of live ammunition sent a shockwave through the battalion. One Marine stumbled, another froze mid-step, unsure of the correct maneuver. Panic threatened to spread. Emily's heart rate spiked not from fear, but from awareness. This was the moment her leadership would be tested like never before. "Hold your positions, eyes on me. Everyone, remain calm." Emily's voice cut through the chaos, steady and commanding. Her presence seemed to anchor the Marines, pulling them back from the edge of panic. She moved quickly to assess the situation, her eyes scanning the affected squad, her mind calculating the safest way to contain the incident. She spotted a Marine dangerously close to an unsecured live round. Without hesitation, she dove forward, signaling him to stay low and guiding him back to cover. "Step here. Move carefully. Keep low." Her hands were everywhere, directing, guiding, and controlling the movement of each Marine in the immediate area. Sergeant Lee followed closely, helping redirect other Marines to safer positions. Even the more skeptical veterans paused to watch Emily. There was no hesitation, no faltering, only precise, calculated commands executed with unwavering confidence. As the immediate danger passed, Emily quickly assessed the battalion, ensuring no one was injured. She directed squads to secure weapons and clear the area of any additional hazards. Her ability to maintain control under pressure impressed the Marines silently observing from the perimeter. Colonel McAllister, who had been monitoring from a distance, stepped forward as the situation stabilized. He had witnessed the near disaster, and for the first time, the humor that usually accompanied his demeanor was absent. The battalion had seen the real Iron Hawk in action, quick, decisive, fearless. Once the drills resumed, Emily re-established order with calm authority. She communicated clearly, adjusted formations, and ensured every squad knew their role. By the time the exercise concluded, the Marines had successfully completed all objectives without further incident. In the debriefing, the battalion gathered, exhausted but disciplined. Sweat-streaked faces, uniforms were muddied, and the air still carried the faint smell of gunpowder. Colonel McAllister addressed the battalion, his voice firm, commanding attention. Captain Turner just demonstrated why leadership is not about age, gender, or jokes about call signs. Today, she handled a situation that could have led to serious injury with precision, composure, and courage. Every Marine here witnessed her skill and her calm under pressure. That is what Iron Hawk represents: competence, courage, and clarity in chaos. The room, usually buzzing with chatter, fell silent. Even the Marines who had whispered or smirked at her call sign earlier in the week now regarded her with a mixture of awe and respect. Emily stood, modest but resolute, letting the words sink in. Later, as the Marines packed away their equipment, Sergeant Lee approached her again. "Captain, I have to admit, that was impressive. You kept your cool when others would have panicked. You earned their respect today. Iron Hawk is no longer a joke." Emily nodded, a quiet satisfaction in her expression. Respect is earned, not given. Today was a start. Tomorrow, we keep proving it. The sun had begun to dip toward the horizon, casting a golden glow over the training grounds. Emily stood at the edge of the field, watching her Marines move with newfound confidence. The near disaster had been a crucible, a test not only of skill, but of leadership and composure. And Emily had emerged not only unscathed, but elevated in the eyes of her battalion. That night, she reviewed the exercise notes in her office, her mind already analyzing ways to improve tactics and communication. Every error, every hesitation, every moment of hesitation was logged mentally and prepared for correction. The battalion's trust was fragile but growing, and Emily understood that every decision she made would either strengthen or weaken it. Colonel McAllister's words echoed in her mind. Iron Hawk represents competence, courage, and clarity in chaos. She knew that the call sign, once a source of amusement, had begun to carry real meaning. She was no longer simply a young officer with a joke name. She was a leader whose actions demanded attention. By the time the base quieted for the night, Emily allowed herself a brief moment of reflection. The day had been long, exhausting, and fraught with tension. Yet, in the face of danger, she had held fast. She had guided her Marines, protected them, and demonstrated what it meant to lead. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. More drills, more tests, more opportunities to prove her worth. But today, Iron Hawk had soared. The battalion had seen her courage and skill firsthand, and the foundation of respect had been firmly laid. As Emily looked out over the now darkened training grounds, she understood something profound. Leadership was not a single moment of heroism, but a consistent demonstration of competence, courage, and calm under pressure. And in the crucible of near disaster, she had proven herself worthy of the call sign she bore. For the first time, Iron Hawk was more than a joke. It was a promise, a symbol. A leader was rising, and the battalion was taking notice. The early dawn light barely pierced the clouds as Captain Emily Turner stepped off the transport helicopter, boots hitting the dry, cracked earth of a remote operational zone. The terrain was harsh, the kind of unforgiving landscape that had tested seasoned Marines countless times before. Dust swirled in the wind, stinging eyes and coating every inch of exposed skin. This was not a training exercise. This was real. Lives were on the line, and every decision Emily made could be the difference between success and disaster. Her battalion was tense but ready. The men and women she had been guiding for months looked to her for leadership, their eyes reflecting a mixture of determination and trust. Iron Hawk, they muttered under their breath, not as a joke, but as a call sign that had begun to carry weight and meaning. Colonel McAllister approached, giving her a firm nod. "Captain, this is as real as it gets. Keep your head, watch your team, and remember everything we've drilled. I have faith in you." His voice carried quiet authority and a subtle pride that Emily noted but did not acknowledge aloud. She moved to her battalion, scanning the horizon, assessing the layout of the mission area. Intelligence had reported hostile activity in the sector, and their objective was to secure a key position and extract critical assets without sustaining casualties. The stakes were high and the enemy unknown. Every Marine depended on her judgment, and she understood that any hesitation could cost lives. "Listen up." Emily's voice rang out, firm and commanding. "We move in squads. Squad Alpha will flank left. Squad Bravo will cover the ridge. Squad Charlie, support the rear and watch for movement in the lower valley. Maintain visual contact and radio silence unless critical. Every step is deliberate. Every move counts." Her instructions were met with nods. Sergeant Lee, always vigilant, checked in with each squad. Emily's confidence had become contagious. What had once been whispered skepticism about Iron Hawk was replaced by steady, focused execution. Her men trusted her. The battalion advanced cautiously, navigating rocky terrain and sparse cover. Dust clouds marked their path, and the silence was tense, broken only by the soft sounds of movement and whispered commands. Emily's eyes scanned constantly, noting every ridge, every shadow, and every subtle indication of enemy presence. Her tactical mind worked like a machine, calculating angles, timing maneuvers, and anticipating threats before they appeared. The first encounter came unexpectedly. A small group of hostile forces appeared on the ridge ahead, their presence confirmed by subtle movement in the shadows. Marines froze for an instant, scanning for cover. Emily acted instantly. "Squad Alpha, engage on my mark. Squad Bravo, suppress left. Squad Charlie, flank right and cover extraction routes." The operation unfolded like a well-rehearsed dance. Emily moved fluidly among her squads, directing fire, adjusting positions, and anticipating the enemy's reactions. Every Marine followed her commands without hesitation. The once tense air was now charged with disciplined focus. The skirmish escalated quickly. Gunfire cracked across the terrain, sending clouds of dust and debris into the air. A Marine in Squad Bravo stumbled, pinned down by incoming fire. Without hesitation, Emily sprinted forward under cover, guiding him to a safer position with rapid, precise commands. Her calm presence under fire inspired confidence. The Marines moved with renewed energy, executing maneuvers as if they had rehearsed them countless times. Hours into the mission, the team encountered a critical obstacle, an enemy position fortified with sandbags and snipers. It was a tense standoff, requiring both strategy and nerve. Emily quickly assessed the terrain and devised a plan. "Squad Alpha, provide covering fire from this position," she instructed, pointing to a rocky outcrop. "Squad Bravo, advance under cover to flank right. Squad Charlie, neutralize the sniper positions and secure the path ahead. Stay low. Communicate with hand signals only. Timing is everything." The plan was risky, but Emily executed it with confidence. Her Marines moved like extensions of her will, coordinating seamlessly despite the chaos around them. By the end of the engagement, the enemy had been neutralized, the position secured, and not a single Marine had been lost. Colonel McAllister arrived at the secure point minutes later, surveying the aftermath. "Captain Turner," he said, his voice steady but tinged with awe, "you handled that operation like a seasoned commander." The battalion performed flawlessly under your leadership. Iron Hawk has earned her wings. The Marines, exhausted and adrenaline-fueled, began to understand the depth of Emily's capability. Her calm under fire, her tactical brilliance, and her ability to inspire confidence had transformed her from a young officer with a joke call sign into a leader the battalion could depend on implicitly. After the mission, as the sun set over the rugged terrain, Emily gathered her team for a debrief. They were muddy, sweat-streaked, and weary, but the air was filled with respect. One of the junior Marines, who had initially doubted her, approached hesitantly. "Captain, Iron Hawk," he said, voice steady now, "you led us through that, and no one got hurt. We trust you. I trust you." Emily smiled faintly, a mixture of pride and humility. Trust is earned through action, not words. Today, we proved what we're capable of as a team. Remember that. Stay disciplined. Stay focused. We learn from every operation, and we grow stronger together. That night, as the battalion settled into temporary quarters, Emily reviewed the day's events meticulously. Every decision, every movement, every outcome was analyzed for improvement. She knew that leadership was not static. It was earned every day through action, integrity, and courage. The battalion's trust had been won in the crucible of real-world danger, and she intended to maintain it. Colonel McAllister visited briefly, observing her reviewing notes. "Captain, you exceeded every expectation today. The men look at you differently now. Iron Hawk is more than a name. They see you as a symbol of strength and reliability." Emily nodded silently, reflecting on the journey. From the first day she arrived at the battalion, through skepticism, teasing, and testing, she had faced every challenge and emerged stronger. The call sign that had once drawn laughter now carried respect, weight, and meaning. It was no longer a nickname. It was a representation of leadership, courage, and unwavering competence. By the time the stars lit the night sky, the battalion slept with a renewed sense of purpose. Emily stood outside, gazing at the terrain that had tested her and her Marines so thoroughly. The mission had not been easy. It had demanded every ounce of skill, focus, and courage she possessed. But she had led her battalion successfully, and in doing so, she had cemented her place among them. Iron Hawk had transformed. The young captain who once elicited jokes had become a figure of authority, respect, and inspiration. The battalion knew that under her command, they were in capable hands, and the legend of Iron Hawk was only beginning. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, and the work of leadership never ended. But tonight, Emily Turner allowed herself a quiet moment of satisfaction. She had proven, beyond doubt, that Iron Hawk was more than a call sign. It was a leader who could guide, protect, and inspire. And somewhere, in the shadow of the rugged terrain, Colonel McAllister watched, silently proud. The joke call sign had become a symbol, and the battalion would never see it the same way again. The base was unusually quiet that morning, a stark contrast to the usual bustle of Marines preparing for drills and routines. Captain Emily Turner stood at the center of the formation, her uniform crisp despite the dust and exhaustion from the recent mission. Today, Colonel McAllister had called the entire battalion together. The air was thick with anticipation, curiosity, and a subtle undertone of respect. The Marines filed into formation, eyes forward, some still whispering the nickname that had followed Emily since her arrival, Iron Hawk. But today, the whispers were quieter, tinged with intrigue rather than humor. Many Marines had witnessed her leadership firsthand: the night reconnaissance, the near disaster during live-fire drills, and the recent real-world mission. What had once been a joke had transformed into acknowledgement. Colonel McAllister stepped forward, his presence commanding silence. He surveyed the battalion with his sharp, piercing gaze. For a moment, he said nothing, letting the tension build. Then, with deliberate clarity, he spoke. "Marines, we've laughed, we've teased, and we've questioned. But leadership isn't about appearances, and respect isn't given. It's earned. Today, I want to talk about someone who has earned both." All eyes turned toward Emily. A few Marines stiffened, unsure of what to expect. Some veterans exchanged glances, silently acknowledging what they already knew. Emily stood at attention, modest and steady, her posture reflecting both confidence and humility. She had come to expect moments like this, yet she never allowed them to define her. Only her actions could. "Captain Emily Turner," Colonel McAllister continued, his voice resonating with authority, "arrived at this battalion with a nickname that many of you thought was humorous. Iron Hawk. But in the past weeks, she has led this battalion through trials that tested nerves, skill, and courage. She has guided us through exercises that would challenge even the most seasoned Marines. She has maintained composure under fire, made split-second decisions with precision, and led by example at every turn." A hushed murmur ran through the battalion. Some Marines, who had previously snickered, now glanced at Emily with newfound respect. The room was charged with attention, every eye trained on her, every ear catching McAllister's words. "She has transformed Iron Hawk from a joke into a symbol," McAllister continued, his voice firm. "A symbol of leadership, skill, and courage. Every Marine in this battalion has benefited from her guidance, and her decisions have saved lives. Today, she stands before you not as a young officer with a nickname, but as a leader who exemplifies the best of what it means to serve in the United States Marines." The silence that followed was profound. For the first time since Emily had arrived, the battalion's laughter and whispers had been replaced by full attention. Every Marine, from the newest recruit to the grizzled veterans, understood the weight of what had been said. Iron Hawk was no longer merely a moniker, it was a standard of excellence. Emily felt the weight of their gaze, but she did not falter. She knew recognition was not the goal, it was the outcome of consistent action. She allowed herself a subtle, composed smile. Trust and respect, once fragile, were now solidified. The colonel paused, letting his words settle. Then, almost casually, he added, "I expect every one of you to remember what you've seen. Leadership is earned, not joked about. Skills are proven, not assumed. And courage. Courage is shown when it matters most. Iron Hawk has shown us all." A low murmur of agreement swept through the ranks, followed by respectful nods. The battalion's atmosphere had shifted dramatically. Where doubt had lingered, respect now stood firm. Where jokes had once flown, silence reigned, filled with acknowledgement of Emily's accomplishments. Sergeant Lay approached Emily as the formation began to break. "Captain, that was impressive. The entire battalion respects you now. You've set a standard they'll follow for the rest of their careers." Emily's expression remained calm, almost serene. "Respect is earned, Sergeant. And earning it once isn't enough. Every day we lead, we prove it again. That's how it stays." Throughout the day, Emily continued to move among the Marines, observing training, giving guidance, and correcting minor errors. Her presence was no longer met with skepticism. She had become a quiet authority, a figure whose word carried weight. The nickname Iron Hawk was spoken with respect, sometimes even quietly in admiration. As the sun began to dip behind the mountains surrounding the base, Emily took a moment to stand on a ridge overlooking the training ground. Dust swirled around her boots, the wind tugged at her hair, and the quiet hum of the base below carried a sense of purpose she had never felt so intensely. The battalion had transformed, not just in skill, but in cohesion and morale. Her leadership had become a rallying point. Colonel McAllister joined her, his hands behind his back. He observed the scene silently, letting Emily take in the moment. Finally, he spoke, his voice low but carrying weight. "You've done more than I expected, Captain. You've taken a battalion that questioned, that doubted, and you've made them trust, follow, and respect. Iron Hawk isn't just a name anymore. It's a legacy in the making." Emily nodded. "It's not about me, sir. It's about them. A leader doesn't succeed alone. We succeed as a unit, together. That's what they deserve." The colonel's gaze lingered for a moment longer. Then he nodded and left her alone, allowing her to stand in quiet reflection. The sun now dipped below the horizon completely, casting the valley in hues of orange and red. Emily felt a sense of calm determination settle over her. The battalion had witnessed her leadership. They had seen courage in action. And in the silent acknowledgement of her capabilities, Iron Hawk had become more than a nickname. It had become a symbol, one that would endure. That night, as Emily reviewed the day's events in her quarters, she thought about the journey that had brought her here. From her arrival, through teasing, doubt, near disasters, and real-world operations, every step had built toward this moment. The battalion's silence, their attention, and their respect were tangible, earned through persistent effort, bravery, and clarity under pressure. As she prepared for the next day, Emily realized something essential. Leadership was a continuous effort. One moment of recognition did not cement authority permanently. Every decision, every command, every action was a new opportunity to prove competence and earn respect. And the battalion had already begun to see that Iron Hawk would lead with consistency, integrity, and courage always. Outside her quarters, the base remained quiet. The Marines were resting, their trust in their captain fortified. The nickname Iron Hawk lingered in the air, no longer carrying humor, but authority, admiration, and the quiet weight of earned respect. Emily allowed herself a brief smile, knowing that the true work had only just begun. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new missions, new tests of skill, and new opportunities to lead. But for now, she allowed herself to feel a sense of accomplishment. The battalion had seen her at her best under pressure, and the silence that followed Colonel McAllister's address was louder than any cheer. It was acknowledgement, respect, recognition, and Captain Emily Turner, Iron Hawk, had earned every ounce of it. The dawn air was crisp, carrying a subtle scent of pine and dust as Captain Emily Turner stood before her battalion. The base was quieter than usual, but a charged energy pulsed beneath the calm exterior. Over the past weeks, the Marines had witnessed her courage, skill, and tactical brilliance through exercises, near disasters, and real-world missions. The nickname Iron Hawk, once a source of teasing, had transformed into something more profound, a symbol of leadership, precision, and unwavering resolve. Emily scanned the formation, her eyes meeting the gazes of both seasoned veterans and fresh recruits. Some faces bore the weariness of long training, others the nervous anticipation of those new to the battalion, but all reflected trust. Every Marine knew that today, more than ever, they could rely on her guidance. Colonel McAllister approached, walking slowly across the gravel toward the formation. His expression, usually unreadable, carried a subtle warmth and pride. He stopped beside Emily and addressed the battalion. "Marines, we have witnessed leadership in action over the past weeks. Some of you questioned it. Some of you even laughed. But leadership is not about first impressions. It's about actions, courage, and integrity under pressure. Captain Turner has demonstrated all of these and more. Today, she will lead this battalion not as a new officer with a nickname, but as a symbol of what we stand for. Iron Hawk is more than a call sign, it is a standard." The formation remained silent, the words settling like a weight in the crisp morning air. Marines who had once whispered jokes now held their heads higher, their attention fully focused on Emily. The silence itself was a testament to the respect she had earned. Emily stepped forward, her voice calm and commanding. Marines, over the past weeks, we've faced challenges together: night operations, leave fire exercises, and real-world missions. Each time, we relied on teamwork, trust, and discipline. Today, I am proud to lead you not because of a name, but because of the courage and competence I see in every one of you. We succeed as a team, and we will continue to do so." She paused, allowing her words to resonate. The murmurs of approval were subtle but present. Eyes shifted from uncertainty to confidence. Iron Hawk was no longer a novelty. It was a presence, a standard, and the battalion could feel it. The day's operation began with a coordinated tactical exercise, designed to reinforce everything they had learned. Emily moved seamlessly among her squads, giving orders, adjusting positions, and ensuring every Marine was safe and effective. Her strategy was impeccable, her leadership fluid and decisive. The battalion executed maneuvers with precision, anticipating her commands even in the chaos of simulated combat. During the exercise, a small squad encountered an unexpected obstacle, a narrow canyon that threatened to slow their advance and compromise their position. Emily quickly assessed the situation. Squad Delta, provide cover from the ridge. Squad Charlie, flank left through the canyon. Squad Alpha, maintain overwatch from the plateau. Squad Bravo, prepare to reinforce the extraction point. Communicate only when necessary, and watch each other's six. Her directions were precise, yet delivered with calm authority. The squads moved into position, executing the plan flawlessly. Every movement was synchronized, a testament to the trust and confidence Emily had cultivated over weeks of training and operations. Even the most skeptical Marines now followed her lead without hesitation, their respect solidified through repeated demonstrations of competence and courage. Halfway through the exercise, an unexpected challenge arose. Simulated enemy fire erupted from a hidden ridge, forcing one squad to take cover under heavy mock fire. Without flinching, Emily adjusted positions and issued commands. Squad Alpha, suppress left. Squad Bravo, flank right. Delta and Charlie, maintain positions and provide overwatch. Move with purpose and communicate only when necessary. Her voice, calm yet commanding, cut through the chaos. The Marines executed the maneuvers with precision, neutralizing the threat and completing the objective. Sergeant Lee, observing from a safe vantage, shook his head in quiet admiration. "I've been in this battalion a long time," he muttered under his breath. "I've never seen anyone move the way she does. Iron Hawk isn't just a name, it's a standard." By the end of the exercise, the battalion had completed every objective successfully. No errors, no casualties, and an overwhelming sense of cohesion filled the air. Emily gathered the Marines for a final briefing, her posture firm but approachable. "Marines, today demonstrated what we can achieve when we trust each other and execute with precision. Every one of you contributed to this success. Remember this feeling, this efficiency, and this unity. That is what Iron Hawk represents: not a name, not a call sign, but leadership, courage, and teamwork. Wear it with pride." As the formation broke, the Marines exchanged glances, some with awe, others with admiration. The nickname Iron Hawk, once whispered with humor, was now spoken with reverence. The battalion had fully embraced her as a leader. Her courage and decisiveness had not only earned their respect, but had inspired them to be better Marines themselves. Later that evening, Emily reflected on the day in her office. Notes from the exercise lay spread across her desk, detailing every maneuver, every decision, and every outcome. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, the teasing, the skepticism, the night operations, the near disasters, and the real-world mission. Every challenge had been a stepping stone toward earning the trust and respect of her battalion. Colonel McAllister visited briefly, leaning against the doorframe. "Captain, you've set a new standard here. The battalion follows you, because they trust you, not because of your call sign. But that call sign, Iron Hawk, it's become a symbol, and it carries weight. They'll remember it. They'll respect it. And they'll emulate it. Emily nodded thoughtfully. It's not about the call sign, sir. It's about action, consistency, and integrity. If they follow me because of a name alone, that's fleeting. But if they follow because they see leadership every day, that's permanent. The colonel smiled faintly. Exactly. You've given them more than a name. You've given them confidence, discipline, and pride. Iron Hawk is legend now, and it's deserved. As night settled over the base, Emily walked among the Marines, exchanging brief words of encouragement, checking equipment, and observing routines. The quiet respect in their eyes was unmistakable. They trusted her. They looked to her for guidance. They believed in her. Outside, the stars stretched across the clear sky, a canopy over a battalion transformed. Where skepticism had once lingered, respect now reigned. Where jokes had once flown, silence now carried acknowledgement of her accomplishments. Iron Hawk was no longer merely a call sign, it was a symbol of what leadership could achieve. Emily paused for a moment on a ridge overlooking the base. She allowed herself a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility, but also the quiet satisfaction of achievement. The journey had been long, challenging, and fraught with tests, but the battalion now understood what she represented. Leadership, courage, and unwavering resolve. And Iron Hawk had become more than a symbol. She had become the standard by which the battalion measured itself. Every Marine, from the newest recruit to the most experienced veteran, now understood what it meant to follow a leader who earned trust through action, not words. For Captain Emily Turner, the nickname that had once been a source of laughter had become a badge of honor, a representation of respect, and a reminder that true leadership is proven in the crucible of action. The battalion had seen her rise, and in doing so, had risen with her. The early morning sun rose over the base like a quiet promise. Captain Emily Turner stood atop a ridge overlooking the training grounds, her uniform immaculate despite weeks of grueling operations. She had come a long way from the day she arrived, the day when the nickname Iron Hawk had drawn smirks and whispered jokes. Now, the call sign carried power, respect, and the weight of earned authority. It had become a symbol of leadership, courage, and the relentless pursuit of excellence. Her battalion moved below, practicing drills with precision and focus. Veterans and new recruits alike carried themselves with a confidence that had not existed before. Emily observed quietly, noting the subtle changes in their posture, the seamless coordination of squads, and the steady determination in their eyes. She had led them through night operations, live fire exercises, and high-stakes missions, and the transformation was undeniable. Colonel McAllister approached silently, his usual measured expression softened by a rare smile. "Captain Turner," he said, his voice low but carrying unmistakable pride, "you've done more than lead. You've inspired. This battalion will remember Iron Hawk long after you've moved on. You've left a legacy." Emily nodded. "It's not mine alone, sir. Every Marine here has shaped it. I merely guided them." The colonel studied her for a moment. "Leadership like yours isn't common. They'll remember the lessons, the courage, and the integrity you've shown. Iron Hawk isn't just a call sign anymore. It's a standard they'll carry with them." The day began with a complex battalion exercise designed to simulate real combat conditions, urban navigation, securing strategic positions, and executing coordinated maneuvers under pressure. Emily moved among her squads, offering guidance, correcting errors, and demonstrating the precision that had become her hallmark. The battalion executed the maneuvers flawlessly, each Marine acting with the confidence that Emily had instilled. During the operation, a minor crisis arose. A simulated casualty had been reported in a vulnerable position. The squad closest to the incident hesitated, unsure how to proceed. Emily immediately assessed the situation, her mind calculating the fastest, safest approach. Squad Alpha, cover fire from the ridge. Squad Bravo, flank left. Squad Charlie, extraction route clear. Move with precision and speed. This is our priority. The squads responded without hesitation, trusting her judgment implicitly. Emily advanced with careful authority, ensuring the safety of the simulated casualty while coordinating movement and providing clear, concise commands. By the time the exercise concluded, the objective had been successfully achieved, and the battalion had executed every element of the mission flawlessly. As the squads regrouped, Emily's presence was met with nods, quiet acknowledgement, and unspoken respect. The transformation from skepticism to trust was now complete. She had not only led them through challenges, she had earned their unwavering confidence. Colonel McAllister gathered the battalion in formation once the exercise ended. "Marines," he began, his voice commanding attention, "you've seen leadership in action. You've seen courage, precision, and the unwavering commitment of one of your own. Captain Emily Turner Iron Hawk has guided you through trials that would challenge even the most seasoned officer. She has earned your respect, and she has set a standard that will endure long after this day." The Marines stood silent, the weight of his words sinking in. Where once there had been whispers and doubt, now there was solemn recognition. The battalion's attention was fully on Emily, and the significance of their acknowledgement was palpable. Emily stepped forward, her voice calm yet resolute. "Marines, leadership is not a title, it's an action. It's earned through consistency, courage, and integrity. Every challenge we face together strengthens us, and every mission we complete solidifies the trust we have in one another. Iron Hawk is not a name I gave myself. It's a standard we've built together. Carry it with pride, and let it guide you in everything you do." The silence that followed was heavy with respect. No jokes, no murmurs, only recognition. The battalion had witnessed her courage and skill, and now they fully understood the significance of the call sign that had once been a source of amusement. Iron Hawk had become a symbol of leadership, endurance, and excellence. Later that evening, Emily walked among her Marines, exchanging quiet words, reviewing equipment, and checking on morale. She observed the pride in their movements, the confidence in their actions, and the subtle ways they now looked to one another for guidance, inspired by the leadership she had demonstrated. It was clear the battalion had internalized her lessons, and her influence would persist long after this deployment. Sergeant Lee approached her quietly. "Captain, they'll never forget this. You've turned Iron Hawk into something legendary. We all follow you because we trust you, not because of a name, and that trust, that respect, it's permanent." Emily nodded, a quiet smile forming. Trust isn't a one-time thing. It's built every day through action and consistency. That's the legacy we leave. The name matters less than the standard we set. But I'm proud we've reached this point together. Night fell over the base, and the stars shimmered like distant guardians. Emily stood at the edge of the ridge, overlooking the training ground. The battalion slept below, exhausted but disciplined, and she allowed herself a moment of reflection. From the first day she had arrived, through teasing, doubt, and relentless challenges, every step had led to this moment. The legacy of Iron Hawk was no longer just her own, it was the battalion's. Each Marine carried the lessons she had instilled: precision under pressure, calm in chaos, courage when confronted with danger, and the unwavering belief in teamwork and trust. The call sign had transcended its origins, becoming a standard by which every Marine would measure themselves and their actions. Colonel McAllister joined her one last time that night. "Captain Turner, you've done more than lead a battalion. You've built a legacy. Iron Hawk will be remembered in this unit, long after you move on. That's no small feat. Emily allowed a small nod, a weight of responsibility mingling with quiet pride. It's not about me, sir. It's about ensuring they can succeed without me. A leader's true legacy is in the team they leave behind. As dawn approached the next day, Emily addressed her battalion one final time before a new operation. Marines, every challenge we face strengthens us. Every obstacle is an opportunity. Iron Hawk is more than a call sign. It's a reminder of what we can achieve together. Carry it forward and let it guide your actions, decisions, and courage. The Marines responded not with applause, not with cheers, but with the silent, unwavering acknowledgement of respect and trust. It was louder than any words could be. The nickname Iron Hawk had completed its transformation. What had once been a source of humor was now a symbol of enduring leadership. Emily watched her battalion as they prepared for the day ahead, knowing that she had not only led them, but had inspired them to become better, stronger, and more disciplined Marines. Iron Hawk would live on, not in a name, but in the standard, courage, and integrity that Emily Turner had instilled in every member of her battalion. The story of Iron Hawk, once a joke, now a legend, would be told for years to come. Every mission, every exercise, and every challenge would carry her influence. And Captain Emily Turner, standing tall against the morning light, knew that leadership was not about recognition, it was about action, consistency, and the legacy left in the hearts and minds of those who lead. As she looked out across the base, a soft breeze carrying the faint scent of pine and dust, Emily allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. The journey had been difficult, filled with tests of skill, courage, and resilience. But in the eyes of her battalion, Iron Hawk had become more than a nickname. It had become an enduring symbol of what it meant to lead with integrity, courage, and unwavering commitment. And in that moment, standing atop the ridge, Emily Turner Iron Hawk felt the quiet satisfaction of a leader whose actions had not only earned respect, but had created a legacy that would endure long after the echoes of today had faded.